Welcome. This is the first video for my YouTube channel. It will give background information about why I started a model railroad layout, the decisions I made, the early progress I made on the layout, and lastly, show a video with the state of the layout as of March 2025. I've been retired for several years, and my kids are grown and out of the house. I have several things I do as hobbies, including reading many books, video gaming on both my computer and phone, some photography, occasional woodworking, and I also do a lot of geocaching. But back in the summer of 2024, I decided I wanted to do something new that would allow me to learn new skills and do something that I'd never done before. That's when I decided that I wanted to build a model railroad. I had recently been cleaning out years of accumulated junk from our basement, and by doing a better job of how I stored the stuff that we needed to keep, I was able to free up a large section of the basement. I now had the space I would need to build a nice-sized layout. I wasn't sure exactly what type of railroad I was going to model, and so I spent more than a month just researching the general topic of model railroading, reading various model railroad magazines, and watching lots of YouTube videos. I was especially interested in ones where various modelers suggested decisions you should make along the way toward picking the type of layout you want. I eventually decided that I wanted a point-to-point layout with opportunities for switching at industries, and I wanted it to be based in the current day. From years of geocaching around the Northern Virginia area, I knew that there were various railroads in and around the Winchester, Virginia area, and after more research discovered the Winchester and Western Railroad and decided that was what I was going to model. The Winchester and Western is a short line that runs from Gore, Virginia to Winchester, Virginia, and then turns in a northeast direction and heads up through Martinsburg, West Virginia, and on up almost to Hagerstown, Maryland, with a bridge going across the Potomac River. The railroad interchanges with the CSX in both Winchester and Martinsburg. It also interchanges with the Norfolk Southern in Hagerstown, Maryland, via trackage rights with the NS. In August of 2024, I started scouting the area where the railroad ran and taking pictures of the industries that are served by the railroad. There seemed to be a reasonable number of interesting industries to model, including the Uniman Sand Mine in Gore, Virginia, O'Sullivan Films in Winchester, Savay's Steel also in Winchester, Helena Chemicals in northern Winchester, Hub Scrap of Northern Virginia, a Clorox facility and an asphalt facility located close to each other in West Virginia, and a large Procter & Gamble facility in West Virginia. I decided that I would build the layout in stages, rather than building all the bench work at the start. I figured this would be easier to do and not so overwhelming, and it would allow me to work on learning various skills needed to build a large layout. I would also have a running layout in a shorter time. My track plan will be a reasonable representation of the real tracks operated by the Winchester and Western, compressed or slightly modified as needed. I will be building structures to match, where possible, the actual buildings that exist at various locations, so I will likely be scratch building most structures. This will give me interesting things to learn how to do and keep me engaged while building scenery. As summer moved into fall, I kept doing more and more research and learning about more and more topics. Methods for building benchwork, ways to build sub-road bed, methods for scratch building my own turnouts, DCC wiring, LCC, and many more topics. I was also finalizing my track plan for the layout. By October, I had started to build the benchwork. My benchwork is essentially L-girder construction that is attached to the existing wall studs and cantilevered out from the wall. In this way, there are no legs on the aisle side of the layout. It's sort of a large shelf layout. By the end of October, I had the first two sections of the benchwork completed. I had decided that I would attempt to build my own turnouts. I had done a lot of research about Fast Track's turnouts and watched a lot of videos about how to build these turnouts by using printed templates. I had ordered a soldering station. At this point, I had never soldered anything before in my life. I bought some PCB ties from Fast Tracks and some Code 83 rail. It took me a bit of trial and error and a bunch of patience, but by the last week of October, I had built my first 2 turnouts. After more research, in mid-November, I had ordered and received my DCC system, a TCS CS105, a UWT 100 throttle, and my first locomotive. As you can see, this engine is not the correct paint scheme, but it is the correct type for the Winchester and Western to have, and eventually, when I learn what I need to know and can get up the nerve, I will repaint this locomotive in the Winchester and Western paint scheme. By mid-December, I had gone out and bought some plywood and some foam insulation boards. I will use these for the sub-road bed and for scenery base. I also continued to build more turnouts. Also in mid-December, I started scratch building the locomotive shop for the railroad, which is located in Gore, Virginia. I had been lucky enough to get some pictures of the inside of the shop on one of my visits to the area. This really helps, since I plan to have the roof of the building be removable, and I will detail both the inside and outside of the shop. By the end of January 2025, I had all the sub-road bed in place on the 2 sections of the benchwork. I had also built a pair of pull-out shelves under the second section to hold my command station and laptop. During February of 2025, I ordered and received Tortoise switch machines and various LCC components to control them via JMRI. I also completed building more turnouts. By this time, I was up to a total of 7 turnouts made. I wired the DCC power bus and a DC power bus under 2 sections of the benchwork. After drawing the proposed layout on top of the sub-road bed for the first section, modifying it in several areas to hopefully make for smooth running, I actually was able to lay cork roadbed in place. The remainder of this video will be some footage that I recorded in mid-March to show my progress on the layout. The video isn't necessarily the greatest, as I'm still learning how to do all this stuff. This shows the general area in the basement where the layout has been constructed. There's 2 sections of the layout, a long section against the outside wall of the basement, and then another section against the far wall of the basement. That section of the layout has the command station and my laptop on shelves underneath it. Eventually I will have a lift-out section that will span that doorway that you see so that those 2 sections will be connected together. This shows how the benchwork structure is attached to the studs and is cantilevered out over the basement floor, and the L girders are attached to the top of those shelf supports. This shows how the joists and the risers are attached to the L girder, and then using pocket screws, it's screwed up from the bottom into the sub-road bed to hold everything together. It can be easily moved. This shows a closer view of the end of section 1. That control panel has a DC power pack and also some LCC components for controlling turnouts. And then there's the door that I have to span with a lift-out section eventually, and that's a closer view of the where the command station and my laptop are on shelves. This shows a close-up of where the shelves are that have the command station and laptop, and above that is a narrow shelf with a programming track. The remaining footage shows where the cork road bed has been put on top of the sub-road bed. This area is where the Unimin sand mine will be. 2 tracks go under the sand loading facility. There'll be a spur going off to another industry toward the window. This area coming up is where the Winchester and Western locomotive shop will be located. There'll be a track running through the locomotive shop and a storage track that's behind the shop. And there's switches that go to a passing track in this area. This shows where the tracks will go into the locomotive maintenance facility and the location of one of the switches there. As we move toward the right, there are the switches that feed the passing track, and in the distance is the O'Sullivan Films industry location. This area shows the location of the O'Sullivan Films industry. They have two sidings, one that'll be close to a warehouse, one that feeds plastic pellet storage containers, and there's a passing siding that actually, a small one that resides within their facility's gates. This last section of the layout doesn't have any cork road bed down yet. It will have a sweeping curve that you're looking at now that will go through that wall, that pink insulation, to a hidden staging area at some point in the future. And then there'll be a curved turnout that goes and will sweep a turn that will go across the lift out section that will be there in the future. So that concludes this initial introductory video for my Winchester and Western Railroad layout. It's been an interesting experience putting together my first ever YouTube video. Yet another thing I'm learning to do as I build my layout. Hopefully I'll get better at this in the future. Shortly I'm going to be putting together another video to show my progress since March of 2025, both on the layout and with the locomotive shop that I'm building. I hope anybody who tuned in to watch this video enjoyed what I've been doing, and I look forward to having you view more content in the future.